Maher thinks WNBA rookie and #1 draft pick Caitlin Clark is being targeted by other players because she's not a lesbian and she's white.
What if everything you thought you knew about Caitlin Clark's WNBA journey was wrong? What if the brightest star in women's basketball didn't just leave for better money or new opportunities, but because she was pushed out by forces far more complicated than anyone's admitting? The truth about what really happened behind the scenes is more controversial and revealing than you could imagine. This isn't just a story about basketball. It's about identity, politics, and the hidden pressures that can make or break a superstar against all odds. Today, we're diving deep into the untold story of Caitlin Clark's WNBA experience, from the shocking comments by Bill Maher that exposed underlying tensions to the real reasons behind her potential European ambitions. What we uncover will change how you view women's basketball forever. By the end of this video, you'll understand why this controversy speaks to much larger issues in sports today, and why Clark's journey might just determine the future of the entire league. It started on a Friday evening in June 2024, when political commentator Bill Maher used his HBO platform Real Time to wade into sports territory with comments that would send shockwaves through the WNBA community. During a segment about Caitlin Clark's rough treatment by opponents, Maher didn't hold back his perspective on why the rookie phenom seemed to be facing such resistance from within her own league. Maher pointed to 3 key factors that he believed explained the dynamic. Women are catty, the league is very lesbian, and she's not. And there's race. There's a lot going on. This blunt assessment immediately divided audiences, with some praising Maher for speaking uncomfortable truths, while others condemned him for perpetuating harmful stereotypes.
The league is very lesbian, and she's not. And there's race. There's a lot of.
The commentator further emphasized his point by contrasting how he believed male athletes would have handled similar situations. See, if this was men, they defend each other on their same team. I mean, men will fight from 2 teams, but when somebody checks you on who's on your team, you defend that guy. The specific incident that prompted Maher's comments occurred earlier that month when Chicago Sky player Chindy Carter delivered a blatant hip check to Clark during an inbound pass, sending the rookie sprawling to the court. What made the moment particularly notable wasn't just the aggressive play itself, but the reaction or lack thereof from Clark's own Indiana Fever teammates. Maher referenced former NBA player Matt Barnes, who had publicly questioned the lack of response from Clark's team, noting he'd seen other players seem to smirk when Clark was knocked down and were slow to help her up, emphasizing that a team is supposed to be a family. The response to Maher's comments was immediate and polarized.
They defend each other on their same team. I mean, men will fight from 2 teams, but when somebody checks you on who's on your team, you defend that.
This segment of the audience believed Maher had pinpointed the uncomfortable truth about why Clark's reception in the WNBA seemed so markedly different from her record-breaking college career at Iowa, where she became the all-time leading scorer in NCAA Division I history. To understand the full context of this controversy, we need to examine Clark's extraordinary journey to the WNBA at the University of Iowa. Clark wasn't just a good player. She was a cultural phenomenon who transformed women's college basketball. She left Iowa as the NCAA Division I all-time leading scorer, a 2-time National Player of the Year, and the athlete who delivered record-breaking television ratings for the women's championship game. Her deep 3-pointers and court vision made her must-watch television, and she seemed to transcend the sport in ways few athletes ever achieve. When Clark was drafted first overall by the Indiana Fever in 2024, expectations were sky high. But the transition from college superstar, professional rookie, proved challenging in ways few anticipated. Clark herself acknowledged the difficult adjustment. So you basically go home for one day and pack up your whole life, and then move to a new city, the city that you get drafted to. So I think it's just the adjustment period that you have. She noted the whiplash of going from being a college student, a college athlete, and then you're like a professional athlete, and there's a lot that comes with that too.
It's not always racism when a white person succeeds.
Despite the challenges, Clark's rookie season was historically impressive by any objective measure. She won WNBA Rookie of the Year, made the All-WNBA first team, led the league in assists, and became the first rookie ever to record a triple-double. She should have been celebrated as the league's next great superstar, the player who could elevate the WNBA to new heights of popularity and profitability. Yet instead of universal celebration, Clark found herself at the center of a cultural firestorm that extended far beyond basketball. What made Clark's welcome to the WNBA so perplexing was the stark contrast between her on-court achievements and her off-court reception. Here was a player breaking records and bringing unprecedented attention to the league, yet she often seemed isolated within it. The question many observers began asking was simple. Why would a league not embrace its most marketable, talented, and attention-bringing newcomer? The answers, as Bill Maher pointed out, appear to extend far beyond basketball fundamentals. Much of the controversy surrounding Clark's treatment centered on the physicality she faced from opponents. The hip check from Chindi Carter was just one of several incidents where Clark appeared to be targeted with unusually aggressive play. While physical basketball is part of the professional game, many observers noted that what Clark experienced seemed to cross the line from competitive to personal. The WNBA itself acknowledged this when it upgraded Carter's foul from a common foul to a flagrant one violation, defined as unnecessary contact committed by a player against an opponent. Perhaps more telling than opponent's aggression was the response from Clark's own teammates. Multiple commentators noted that Fever players often seemed reluctant to come to Clark's defense when she was targeted. This lack of team solidarity stood in stark contrast to professional sports norms, where teammates typically protect their stars at all costs. The seeming indifference from those who should have had her back fueled speculation that Clark was facing isolation within her own locker room, not just from opponents. Maher's comments about race touching on Clark's experience highlighted one of the most sensitive aspects of this controversy. The WNBA has a predominantly black player base, while Clark is white. This racial dynamic became impossible to ignore when players like Io Wilson of the Las Vegas Aces suggested that Clark was receiving preferential treatment because of her race, stating, "It doesn't matter what we all do as black women, we're still going to be swept underneath the rug." Meanwhile, Clark's supporters argued that her success was being dismissed or attributed to race rather than recognized as the product of extraordinary talent and work ethic. Maher's most controversial claim centered on his statement that the league is very lesbian and she's not, suggesting that Clark's heterosexual identity created additional barriers to acceptance in the WNBA culture. This comment sparked outrage from those who saw it as reductionist and homophobic, while others argued it acknowledged an authentic cultural dynamic within the league. The debate highlighted how identity politics, both real and perceived, have become inextricably woven into discussions of Clark's reception. The media played a crucial role in shaping public perception of Clark's WNBA experience. Outlets often framed the narrative as a clash between an outsider challenging establishment norms, with different publications emphasizing different aspects of the story based on their ideological leanings. Some focused exclusively on the racial dimensions, while others highlighted the gender and sexuality aspects Maher had emphasized. This selective framing often obscured the complex reality of what Clark was experiencing as a rookie in the league. One of the most ironic aspects of Clark's situation was the disconnect between her popularity with fans and her reception within the league. Clark was undeniably good for business. She sold out arenas, generated record television ratings, and brought mainstream attention to the WNBA in unprecedented ways. Yet rather than celebrating this boon to the league's visibility and profitability, some players seemed to resent the attention Clark received, viewing it as validation privilege rather than recognition of merit. Media coverage of Clark often revealed double standards in how she was evaluated compared to her peers. Her confidence was sometimes framed as arrogance, while the same trait in male athletes would be celebrated as competitive fire. Her marketing success was occasionally presented as opportunism rather than business savvy. Even her struggles were magnified under an intense spotlight that few rookies in league history had ever experienced. This uneven scrutiny created an environment where Clark faced criticism no matter how she performed or conducted herself. As with many modern sports controversies, the Clark story often prioritized sensational elements over substantive discussion of actual basketball. The complex dynamics of team chemistry, rookie hazing, competitive jealousy, and the natural adjustment period for any young player were frequently overlooked in favor of more incendiary framing centered on identity politics. This media approach may have exacerbated tensions that otherwise might have resolved naturally through the course of the season. Rumors about Clark potentially leaving the WNBA for Europe began circulating in late 2024, with various outlets reporting that she was considering overseas opportunities. These reports suggested that frustration with her WNBA experience was a primary factor in her considering international options. However, it's crucial to distinguish between speculative reports and verified information when examining these claims. The European basketball rumor contained a kernel of truth regarding financial incentives. Top WNBA players can often earn significantly higher salaries playing overseas during the WNBA offseason, with some stars making 2 to 3 times their American salary in international leagues. For a marketable superstar like Clark, European offers could potentially reach 7 figures, a compelling financial proposition regardless of her satisfaction with the WNBA environment. Beyond finances, the speculation about Clark considering Europe often pointed to cultural factors. European leagues are known for being more purely focused on basketball, without the same level of media scrutiny and off-court narrative building that dominates American sports. For a player seeking to focus exclusively on her game away from controversy, the international option could understandably hold appeal, despite the persistent rumors. It's important to note that as of 2025, Clark remains under contract with the Indiana Fever and has not made any official announcement about leaving for Europe. In fact, recent reports indicate she's discussing her long-term future in the WNBA, even mentioned the possibility of eventually coaching college basketball after her playing career concludes. This disconnect between rumor and reality highlights how speculation can sometimes outpace actual developments in sports media. The European rumors also serve another purpose: leverage in future contract negotiations. Whether accurate or not, speculation about Clark's willingness to play overseas strengthens her position when discussing future contracts, endorsements, and working conditions with the Fever and the league. This business dimension reminds us that what appears in media often serves multiple strategic purposes beyond simply reporting facts. The Caitlin Clark situation reflects a broader phenomenon in contemporary sports, where athletes become symbols for larger cultural debates beyond their control. Clark found herself positioned as a representative for everything from white privilege to heterosexual experience in women's sports, regardless of whether she sought or welcomed these symbolic roles. This burden of representation adds an additional layer of pressure that athletes of previous generations rarely face to the same degree. Women's basketball stands at a crossroads between its activist roots and its commercial future. The WNBA has proudly positioned itself as a progressive league advocating for social justice, particularly around racial and LGBTQ+ issues. Clark's arrival tested whether the league could maintain its activist identity while embracing a superstar who represented a different demographic profile and possibly different values from the league's established norms. The tension Clark's presence created highlights a fundamental challenge for the WNBA, balancing its social mission with market realities. The league's players have fought tirelessly for better pay, conditions, and visibility. Yet when a player arrives who delivers unprecedented mainstream attention, the response reveals internal conflicts about what kinds of stars the league should celebrate and what voices should be centered. The Clark controversy also exposed generational and ideological divisions within the WNBA's fan base. Traditional supporters who appreciate the league's community-focused, activist identity sometimes clash with new fans drawn by Clark's individual star power and highlight reel playing style. This tension between collective values and individual stardom represents a challenge many growing sports leagues face as they expand beyond their core audience. Throughout the controversy, Clark has generally maintained a professional public stance, focusing on her performance and development rather than engaging extensively with the cultural debates surrounding her. In a podcast interview with Sue Bird, Clark discussed her future aspirations, mentioning that she might eventually go back at one point in my life and coach college basketball, suggesting a long-term commitment to the sport despite short-term challenges. This forward-looking perspective indicates her primary focus remains basketball rather than cultural warfare. The WNBA faces a critical test in how it handles stars who don't fit traditional molds. For the league to maximize its growth potential, it must create an environment where diverse talents feel welcomed and valued regardless of background, identity, or playing style. This may require consciously bridging divides between player factions and ensuring that all athletes receive adequate protection and support. Sports media also bears responsibility for more nuanced coverage that avoids reducing complex dynamics to simplistic identity politics. The Clark story involves overlapping factors, including basketball culture, generational change, competitive jealousy, marketing dynamics, and legitimate social issues. Coverage that acknowledges this complexity rather than prioritizing incendiary angles would better serve athletes, leagues, and fans. Fans also play a crucial role in shaping sports culture through what they celebrate, criticize, and support. The massive audience Clark attracted represents an opportunity to expand women's basketball's reach, but maintaining these new fans requires creating an inclusive environment that welcomes diverse viewpoints rather than enforcing ideological conformity. The Caitlin Clark controversy reveals fundamental tensions in modern sports between individual stardom and collective identity, between tradition and evolution, between basketball purity and cultural symbolism. Bill Maher's comments, while controversial, tapped into genuine undercurrents in the WNBA that extend far beyond one rookie's experience. How the league navigates these challenges will determine its future trajectory as much as any basketball-related development. Clark's lasting impact, regardless of how long Clark plays in the WNBA or where her career takes her, her impact is already undeniable. She has forced conversations about inclusion, identity, and opportunity that will shape the league for years to come. The question remains whether the WNBA can evolve to embrace stars of all backgrounds while maintaining the activist spirit that has defined its identity since inception. The real story of Caitlin Clark isn't about victimhood or privilege. It's about the complex interplay of talent, identity, and culture in modern sports. Her journey highlights both the progress women's basketball has made and the distance it still has to travel to fulfill its potential as a truly inclusive sporting platform. How this story ultimately unfolds will teach us valuable lessons about sports, society, and the ongoing struggle to balance competition with community. If this deep dive into the untold story of Caitlin Clark's WNBA experience changed your perspective on women's basketball, hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think needs to happen for the league to move past these controversies? Don't forget to subscribe and tap the notification bell so you never miss our uncensored sports analyses. The truth is out there. We're just bringing it to light.